Fox or something.
Which is crazy in
Fox.
Yeah.
My mom has turned her chickens from the house. Yes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. It happens to be Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. I'll call this meeting to order now at 6:33 and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby,
Discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Buck,
Discuss in a moment. Oh, he's here, present. Well, he's not present, but he's here. Remote. Mr. Buck, thank you.
Councilmember Bulman,
Here.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Here.
Councilmember Najarian,
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here. Okay, quorum is present. We shall proceed. The invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Fitzpatrick, and I'll lead us in the pledges with everyone please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together this evening. We thank you for all of your blessings. Please help each of us to keep an open mind and to voice our thoughts as we consider the items on our agenda tonight. Please keep all of our first responders safe, and in particular and the military as well, but also please keep a special eye on the children of our military, for they're making a sacrifice as their parents are serving to keep all of us safe. We ask this in your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to Texas.
I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Honor the Texas flag. Here I am working on it all these years. That must be getting really, really short. Not only the second, right? Okay. All right. Let's move on this evening. The first item is to talk about the staff reports and other discussion items, but I think we first have to vote for the absence of one of our council members. Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby has a real job, and he's out of town on that real job. So if we can excuse him this evening so that he will be officially excused. Move to approve. Councilmember Najarian, second by Councilmember Vaughan. Discussion? All right, call for the vote, please.
Just 1 second. Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan,
Aye.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
That motion passes. We'll move on to our staff reports and other discussion items. Any item in this section may become an action item without further notice by the consent of myself or the request of any of the council members. So I'll ask now for our city manager's report.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm not going to do a report this evening. I'm going to have Michael come up and start talking with you regarding the comprehensive plan. Hoping this evening you'll give us some direction on how you would like us to go so that we can get the RFP out and start that process for the city. Thank you. Yes, it's the fan.
Hey, Michael.
That's fine. So while that's loading, as Kim mentioned, we are getting ready to release the RFP for the update to the comprehensive plan. And so, just a reminder, as you may recall, we did come to, I think, about a year ago, maybe a little less than that, to just describe what exactly a comprehensive plan is and all that's involved. And so we're just going to give a quick synopsis, and then what we're really looking for is guidance from you as to what sections we should include, not only the ones that we had already talked about, but there are some outliers that you may want us to include, but we're not sure. We did bring this before the EDC and P&Z and got their feedback, and so we just wanted to get your feedback before we release this, probably in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so the comprehensive plan officially establishes the goals policies and guidelines. It provides direction for city staff when we have developers coming in with regard to land use. It really sets the policy and gives us guidance to the future, depending on how long you want that plan to be, meaning 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, could be a 40-year plan. It's up to you. Okay. So the source authority comes from the state code as well as the municipal code. And who generates it and how much is the big question, right? So it is generally generated by technical professionals, including planners, landscape architects, economists, civil engineers, economic development professionals, and obviously is reviewed by an attorney. The general range is between $200,000 and $325,000. As you recall, last year, for this current budget season, we did allocate $250,000 for the comprehensive plan update. Unfortunately, that amount will not cover everything in the comp plan, which is why we're coming to you tonight. The document size is generally between 100 and 600 pages, so it can be quite a large document. We did a comparative analysis just to get a better understanding of what towns within Texas and one in Oklahoma, what they spent on their comprehensive plan updates. You can see that two of those, the first two, are comparable in size to Universal City, and they spent over $300,000 each. Okay, so can't see the entire screen, but oh, there we go. Thank you. So these are the recommended categories or chapters that we took away from the conversation we had last year. And so generally you have a demographic and market analysis. That's pretty standard in every comprehensive plan. Then you have the process that's outlined, the stakeholder interviews, community workshop, a questionnaire. We have a project website for folks to fill out a questionnaire, to submit their feedback. And again, the comprehensive plan does establish the vision, goals, and objectives for the future of the city. The different categories are land use and development. And this is especially important if we intend to redo or update our zoning code, because the comprehensive plan gives us the policy direction in order to do that. Transportation mobility plan, this is very important. As it says, the efficient movement of people, roadway network, bicycle and pedestrian mobility, community facilities, and infrastructure plan. Maintenance and improvement plan, we do have some of these on the books, but it might be time to update them in a more comprehensive way. Economic development plan, the economic and fiscal analysis, and the growth assistance policy. So that can help, again, staff from an economic development standpoint know what to tell folks and what to pursue with regard to not only vacant land that could be developed, which we have a very limited supply of these days, but also redevelopment of certain areas of town. And then, of course, the most important part, so this does not just become a plan that you stick on the shelf and forget about, is that you have an implementation plan and a strategic plan, which is what the city has done successfully in the past. The most current one, the 2018 to 2022 plan that we have, is pretty much bullet statements of action items. And so that allowed staff over the last several years to go through and get those objectives and then check them off. It's very important to have that. And obviously backup data and maps. So this next slide is what we need some help with. Well, we need help getting to that slide, but okay. So transportation and mobility plan. The city currently does not have public transit. We did at one point, but that left, it went away. And so do we want to reconsider public transit? Not quite sure. This can also include, current ways that people with share rides and things of that nature. It doesn't just have to be state or public-owned transportation that we're putting into the comp plan. Housing policy, as I mentioned last time, generally a housing policy and a comp plan discusses affordable housing and ways in which to achieve certain goals that are established. Not sure if that's something that we want to consider. Image, identity, and community character. So branding of the city. Standardization when we send out memos, when we correspondence, Facebook, Twitter, any type of communication that the public sees from the city should all be standardized so they know it's coming from the city. And so this particular area is what the EDC and Plan Commission recommended that be included in the comprehensive plan update. Hazard mitigation plan. We generally have these, police and fire have a mitigation plan currently, but do we want to update that and include these different sections? Land use and development plan. Do we want to include commerce and employment policies, workforce goals, things of that nature? Not quite sure. Parks, open space, and environmental features plan. Parks recently updated their plan, so not really sure if this needs to be updated or revised or if any additional information needs to be included. So with that, I'd just like to turn it over to you and for discussion and let us know how you'd like us to proceed. Before I do that though, just to let you know, the schedule that we have planned is to release the RFP on April 15th, so a couple of weeks. And we intend on having it completed in July.
Okay, I'll open it up for slight discussion, and I would like us to consider as a council put this on as an action item for a future meeting. Right now, we can't put this on as action right now if we choose to. I would like us to consider looking at the plan that has been presented to us and bring it up for discussion.
And there doesn't have to be an action item. You can just give us a consensus that's sufficient for us to move forward as well.
Okay, that sounds good as well. Yeah?
So since you're asking, I just want to make sure, I know like when we do an RFP, like there's like what's important, and maybe it's not important to everyone, but it's important to me that like the community outreach place where residents get to be involved, like for focus groups, surveys, a way for them to provide feedback, that it's well advertised and easily accessible. So I think that one for me is like, if we're going to do this, that's like my all-time favorite part of it, is that the residents in the community should be the focus of it. I know there's like other stuff and they're not experts, but I don't care. I still think the residents should have a big say in it, so that's probably part of my big want for that, is just making sure. And then my other question, actually the question, is streets and sewer an option or no? I mean, I know it's not on this list, so I was like, I don't know, like for a comprehensive plan, is that like a thing or no?
So from a higher perspective, you would set the policy. You wouldn't identify streets that you want done in one order.
Not in a comprehensive plan, is what you're saying. I was just making sure.
A policy might be if streets go in, we need to consider two-way traffic and they need to be 8 feet wide versus 4 feet wide. That's the kind of thing that you're looking at. But if you're talking about something else, those are utility plans, which Randy already has those in place.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was like an option or thing, but if it's not, no big deal. So, and then so residents and community outreach, big deal. And then I personally don't think that we need a new parks plan just because we did currently do one. So I'm not saying that I'm for that. I don't think we need the housing policy necessarily, the mitigation plan, and even the public mobility. I'm like, okay, whatever, everyone is in consensus, but that's mine. So if you're asking for feedback, that's mine.
I'm sorry, what did you think about the branding, the image?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, if you want to do I'm for that. If you want to do the image branding and make it all cohesive, I'm down with that. That's just fine. So
Feedback.
yeah.
Mr. Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's mine's more on the transportation mobility plan, public transportation consideration, and image, identity, and community character plan. Talking with a lot of people here in Universal City recently and over the years. I haven't had a big consensus that anybody wants to bring in that public transportation here. But with that being said, with the aging population here, or senior population, I really would like to look at some type of bus shuttle situation where we're bringing seniors from here to the bus station, giving them mobility to move around town and being able to pick them up. I don't know the logistics on that, but that's above my pay grade on those type of logistics. But I think it's something that we can do, and I think it's something that is as people talk to me, that is badly needed. Along those lines, going into image, identity, and community plan, looking at the logistics, people have brought up, senior living area. I don't, being landlocked and everything, I can't see the logistics in that. But what I can see is we've got some areas here where we're looking at putting in those apartments and everything. We've talked about 3 stories, and we've brought up the possibility of 4 stories, which we all know, once you get 4 stories, you have to have the elevator. So every floor is eligible for seniors and handicap. I would like to see us pursuing something like that. We've got 2 areas now that we're looking at possibility of putting places on and other areas. I would like to take a look at that, where not having the room for a senior living center itself, maybe being able to accommodate in that way, which will accommodate not only seniors, but more living opportunities for other people moving in. That, and with that said, just because I don't look at the living arrangements, an actual senior center, meeting center, I believe is something that's long overdue also in the city. Had a couple of ideas about where that goes, but just being able to put it out there in the ether is something that I think is badly needed. And again, this is not just me. These are conversations I've had with people who have I've been on council and recently talking to people that it's past time. With the image, I'm sure our aviation district plan, as we set up, I don't know how much more we can do as far as putting that in the comprehensive plan to make sure that that is, stays in the forefront, and make sure that continues in an unimpeded manner.
So for the image and branding, the aviation district, however that is marketed, branded itself, the goal would be, if this was included in the comp plan, is there would be synergy between not only the aviation district, but whatever the overall marketing brand is for the city itself. So you tie those together somehow. You don't want to have independent, distinct areas that people don't recognize one from the other. You want to have something where people know they're in Universal City, they know they're getting communication from Universal City, but when they drive into the aviation district, they know they're in the aviation district within Universal City.
Yes.
So that's really the direction that the comp plan would provide. And it would help determine, based on level of expense that we want to have, is do we hire a consultant to do that? Do we do that in-house? To what level? So those are the things that we explore through the comp plan update.
Yes. And again, I don't know, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and actually, I think you had touched on the public transportation and mobility plan. It may not be that we're a mature enough city right now to worry about public transportation, but as we have more density and a lot more development that should bring in additional living, we can always visit that at another time as a separate policy if you don't want to include it in this one. And then you had mentioned something about the elevators. So it is the building code and the market that drives elevators. So the building code specifically states if you go over 3 stories, you must have an elevator. And so there's that. And then the rest of it is market driven. So if people really want to attract seniors, they'll put in an elevator, whether it's 2 stories, 3 stories, 4 stories, or more. And so I wanted to do that. And then you brought up the senior center, which obviously, is very important to our community moving forward. I just want to point out that is already in one of our plans, and that is in the Parks Master Plan. And as we go through and carry out that plan, you'll be seeing that coming up in the future. So that may not be something in particular that you need to relook at again, since the Parks Master Plan has already addressed that pretty fully.
Right, and I don't know if there needs to be any changes. I wanted to put that out there because I believe going forward, and when we're talking about changes to the golf course and making that a destination spot, changes to the aviation district, making that a destination spot, brings more people in, but we still have, we do attract military here quite a bit, and like I said, we have aging senior citizens that need to be, taken care of in that comprehensive plan. When you brought up the public transportation, and you're right, I think I said that right off the bat, that it's not a real big thing that people really want that. I personally don't see it right now, but as time goes on, we do need to revisit that because things will change. What we say, the only thing that's constant is change. So we need to be able to move the ball in different directions if it need to be done in the future. But what I was specifically talking about was looking at like a city-run like senior shuttle, not specifically public transportation for all, but be able to get them to public transportation in the interim.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So I just want to make sure that when Michael and I move forward with this, that we're clearly understanding what each one of you are saying. So you're interested in public transportation, maybe not now. You're interested in the senior center, but it doesn't necessarily need to be part of this because it always has a plan. And then you talked about the golf course and the aviation district being important and bringing in, military and other people. So you're really talking about the branding.
Yes.
As Ms. Bulman brought. Okay, great. Okay, just want to make sure we understand what everybody's looking for.
Very good. Mr. Buck, do you want to weigh in before we continue here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would. Can we go back to the previous slide for what's normally part of the basic package, I guess, if you will, on the, thank you. Let's go over this just real quick. Is infrastructure in there? And I know that Mr. Najarian spoke about the Councilmember Bulman talked about roads and the upgrades. I do think it would be important for us to, maintenance and improvement plan for City Hall, Public Works, Fire, Police, maintenance and improvement plan for infrastructure. I would like to have a specific focus on roads, specifically because we approved the $30 million bond last year, and I think a lot of the residents and I would like to see sort of what's our plan for implementing that, as well as maintaining all of our other infrastructure, whether it be electric or sewer or water lines, et cetera, et cetera.
So let me ask Randy a question. When you did the last plan for your roads, water, and sewer, how long did that take?
The plan itself,
Yes.
it's for the roads like 6 months,
6 months.
and then for the water sewers, probably like 3 to 4
Can
months.
I ask everybody to speak up just a little bit? The microphone is way far away from me.
I'm going to repeat what he said. I apologize. I asked Randy when he did the last roads infrastructure plan, how long that took the engineers to do all of that work and the assessment. He said that was 6 months. And on the water and sewer plans program that he has in place, it took the engineer 3 months and 4 months to complete all of that. And the reason I asked him that is because we have a 3-month timeline on this portion of the comprehensive plan. And so you're adding an additional 3 or 4 more months.
Okay, so
No.
I need to clarify.
Okay.
Again, the comprehensive plan sets the policy. It doesn't, it
Make the
isn't the
plan.
plan itself that Randy would generate, okay? It would give you the policy, the framework, that you work within and gives you direction to then go out and do those tasks. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. And that's generally the case for all of these. Okay.
Mr. Buck?
Did you hear that, Mr.
So
Wright?
I guess I was confused by the term comprehensive then, because if it's not a complete plan, my impression of a comprehensive plan was that it would be, well, comprehensive. Is there a way that we can incorporate some of the existing studies like we just completed or are about to complete our sewer survey and a road survey, that we could incorporate those into this comprehensive plan?
Yeah, so they would use those documents as the backup data that would feed into the policy that they generate. So it'd be part of the equation going into formulating that policy. So they would have an update.
So there would be a portion in there about maintenance and updates to our infrastructures and a discussion about road, just not the specific, okay, we're going to do this road. I wasn't looking for that level of granularity, but rather just what is our plan going forward to utilize those $30 million that were approved.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, I also agree with Councilmember Bulman about the community involvement and having some focus groups so that we can get that community input from everybody, as well as community engagement. I think would be a part of this as well. How do we get the messages out? How do we better communicate with everybody? And I know you mentioned about Facebook and other social media platforms, so I very much want to see that in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify a couple of things. So, community outreach and engagement is not an option. It's a mandatory part of a comprehensive plan, just so we all understand that's going to happen. So, yeah, I want to make sure, Mr. Bruck, that you were also agreeing with Ms. Bulman and Mr. Najarian on the branding and a clear message moving forward. And he's shaking his head yes. Yes, thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Vaughan?
I guess I'm still struggling a little bit with the cost benefit of it, of hiring the consultant to come in. I think I'd rather pare it down to hiring a consultant just for the community outreach so we can get the feedback, and then if we have a good idea that we want to explore, then we hire a consultant to explore that idea rather than on the front end saying, let's try to get the whole kit and caboodle. I know we had a much simpler plan in the past, but it was a fraction of the cost. And so I think if that was somewhat successful, I think doing that with getting input from our boards and commissions and our staff and everybody else in the community, we can come up with what we think we should do without having to spend as much money. But I would ask if we do decide on the RFP is to try to do it in addendums as much as possible. To say, have them piecemeal it out for us on a cost basis so that on the back end when we get the contracts, we can say, yes, let's pick these 5, let's skip these 5 because of the cost. Because like to Councilmember Buck's point is on the infrastructure, if that comes back with a high cost, but we're just going to get the 50,000 foot view, then maybe we take that money and we use it on an engineer to give us a more detailed plan rather than trying to force it in the comp plan. So that's just my feedback. Thank you, Mayor.
Good.
I was going to say, I'm really excited to see this on the agenda and see that we're moving forward on it. I think the comprehensive plan is such an important document that helps guide the city moving forward and really gathering the information about what residents want, what businesses want. You know, I think it can really be a driving force, and so I'm excited to see it here. I agree with the topics that you guys are looking at including in there. I definitely felt like the image and branding is important. And I do think that the aviation district having its own unique kind of feel, but being tied in to knowing that you're part of Universal City is super important as we develop those areas.
Okay, Mr. Najarian, any more?
Yeah, just I want clarification from Councilmember Vaughan too. And I may be wrong looking at it, but just looking at it both sides. Would we be looking at researching, or paying this money out for people letting us know what can be done with an area, and then bring up those ideas to the general public, seeing what they come up with, and what the general public likes about what the engineers come up with, or you're talking about getting that folks group together first, and then going to like engineers and kind of structuring it down to from the choices that the public comes out with. Is that basically what you're saying?
I just think the community engagement would be the start.
Would be, but not, yeah.
If we think we have a good land use plan, then we don't need to go down that path. Or if we think, hey, this needs improvement, let's go down this path on the community branding or however that works. I think it would start with us and then we'd branch out.
Thanks for the clarification.
I think citizen input is really important. Bulman brought that up to get them involved in the process. And so, is there anything else that you guys need from us? That would be I think the plan is solid and it's definitely workable. But I think that input by citizens is something I would like to see us pursue. Okay. That should be an integral part of our process.
Scott, are we clear?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, are we good? Okay, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it very much. Okay, next item on the agenda this evening is citizens to be heard. It's a time for citizens to address council on matters of interest, concern, issues that they want to bring up to council. We can't take any action on it, but we certainly welcome your input. And this evening, there have been two gentlemen that have signed up this evening. Mr. David Karras, first. Sir, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is David Karras. I'm at 3001 Muscat Way in Orchard Park. So, Mayor, council members, I really appreciate you letting me speak tonight. Before I start to speak about why I'm here, I want to just take a moment to thank the mayor, the council members, the city manager for addressing my email I sent out with regards to my greenhouse and trying to get that put through. So I really appreciate that. For the record, Linda's like the coolest city employee I've ever worked with. So whatever you're paying her, it's not. But the reason why I'm here today is to ask the city council to put on the May 7th agenda that we have a discussion about the permit requirements and the costs for permits for single-story exterior non-habitable structures in the size of 200 square foot or smaller. Over the past few weeks, many of us have spent many hours researching wind loads, construction requirements, and how applying codes for residential to non-residential buildings kind of play a factor into things. I have come up with about 3 possible solutions that I think would meet the city's intent, but also benefit the residents, not only time-wise, but cost-wise as well. I feel that as a community, it's essential that we work together to make sure that the city is as great as it can be. And I think having that time to discuss that would help solidify that. And that I also think it's important, like we're doing now, is to continuously evaluate and adjust plans that we have because times and conditions constantly change. But I want to thank you all for who helped me navigate this process and get me through to where I can get the greenhouse. And to speak, because I live on Orchard Park, I like to see how you're talking about the community engagement because we really feel isolated over there because you know Shirt's address, all the Shirt's amenities are a lot closer than UC amenities and stuff like that. So if you could make sure that we can get included, it may help bridge that gap over the road. So I appreciate the time.
I promise you, you're engaged. We got you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next individual that's signed is Mr. Bernard Rubal.
Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. Yes, I'm Mr. Rubel. I'm the guy from Coronado Village that's identified now when I go down the street as the man from Coronado Village. Don't talk to him, he's against the golf course. You know, so basically I'm the guy from Coronado Village and I'm not against the golf course. I'm against mismanagement of the golf course. And basically that's another issue. Tonight's issue, however, has to do with the comprehensive plan. Clearly, a third to 40% of what is identified in the comprehensive plan lies in the bedview, the ballpark of also Mr. Casada as his hat holder in the Economic Development Committee. Clearly, 30 to 40% of this information can be addressed through the Economic Development Committee. And if we go down through the list, essentially, like we need a hazards mitigation plan that's not generated by our own police department, our own fire department, our own city manager. So basically, outside review is fine. That's a wonderful thing. However, what are we paying our staff for? Okay, so let's go through again another major concept. We are at build out, according to Mr. Casada. The plan for Universal City should be for the build out plan. We're already on a course where we're going to have more people in non-single housing houses with apartments and rental houses and so forth in our city. We're already on that course, okay? So basically, that's already set. Do our citizens want that? Probably not, okay? Do our cities want, or do our citizens want to go down roads without spilling their coffee? Yes. Do our citizens want to be able to flush their toilets or not fall through sinkholes in the back of their alley? Yes. Okay. So let's focus our comprehensive plan on what our needs are. Okay? We have essentially 93 streets currently identified, and by the time that essentially monies are allocated for those 93 streets, it will be 80 years. 80 years. Now, are you going to tell me that essentially there's not going to be a street seamed on the way to the golf course? No, I doubt it. But I can tell you that there won't be street repairs for a long, long time, even with our $30 million, the largest bond that the city has done. If council doesn't come up with a policy, a comprehensive plan to fund our critical needs by reallocating the venue tax, by essentially start to look at, if we're near build out, what's the Economic Development Committee doing for us? Should we not start to bring some of that money back to support our community? So thank you very much for your time and your efforts. I ask you to delay consideration for a comprehensive plan until the items that are addressable by the Economic Development Committee can start to ante into. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Okay, did anyone else want to address council that didn't give a chance to sign up this evening? Okay, thank you very much. We shall proceed then to the next item. This is the announcements time, and we have our city manager's announcements if she has any yet.
Just a couple items this evening, Mayor. First of all, I would like to thank our police department. A great many of them have been participating with the Special Olympics this evening. I just think it's wonderful to see them out there serving not only our community, but other communities as well. The library is in full swing. They're having what is called their Summer Adventure Series, and so I highly recommend anyone with children and interest in that, go out and look at their Facebook page or their website. May 4th is the pancake breakfast, so the fire department looks forward to seeing a whole bunch of people there for their pancake breakfast. The weather is nice, so the splash pad is open. We kind of did a soft opening, to make sure that everything works and the water's flowing the way that it needs to be. And Randy's giving me a thumbs up and saying that, yes, they did get everything working. And then I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have bulk cleaning coming up. I know we just had brush pickup. We're going to have that again starting August 22nd. But between that, this is the time to do your spring cleaning. And so the 11th through the 14th is from 8 to 5 at the Public Works Yard, 265 Kitty Hawk. And then again, April 18th through the 21st. Just want to remind everybody that this is not a place where you take limbs or brush. This is for household items, tires, chemicals that you might have that you want to get rid of, hazardous materials, and household items. So it's available to everybody that lives in Universal City and has proof of residence. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I have a couple of quick items and then one very special one. The first one is that the air show obviously is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Randolph. and that means traffic. Just it's that simple. The general public will be able to go on base through the main gate and through the east gate and through the south gate. And so those are the avenues that they'll be able to get on base. And there's been lots of work done to try to facilitate the speed and the ability for people to not have to wait over an hour or 2 hours to get onto the base. They've really worked very hard at trying to eliminate some of the problems that we had a couple of years ago. But it's going to be a wonderful event. There's no question about it. So I encourage everybody to go. But just remember, Patrick, it's going to be pretty crowded. It's going to be pretty crowded. Okay. Another item is that San Antonio Express News came up with their best of San Antonio. I don't know if you had a chance, or if you get the paper, if you had a chance to read that on Sunday. I'm going to read some of the individual organizations that have been recognized for that. And I'm going to just go down the little list the way I got it today as I came through it. One is Home Building, and Sitterly Homes finished number 2 on that, and Sitterly is one of the builders in our new development of Civil Crossing. Okay. Brewery, Gather Brewery finished number 2. Our Gather Brewery on Aviation, number 2. Pet Friendly, and that was Pet Friendly for a restaurant. That was also Gather. They finished number 3. How they got in there, I don't know, but it's good. Okay. Sandwiches, 4 Kings, finished number 3. School District, Judson ISD, number 1. Nothing against your civil, it's great. Okay. Community Leader, Cheryl Maxwell, Lori Putt were recognized as community leaders. They finished 3rd behind Mayor Ron Nirenberg and a lady that is a very special nonprofit that she works for. Heating and air conditioning, we have an element of John Wayne right here in Universal City. They were number 1. Pet grooming, Greener Grooming, number 1. Number 1, right there by Planet Fitness. Grocery, HEB, surprise, surprise, right? Okay. Local golf course, Olympia Hills, numero 2, number 2, behind Brackenridge Park in San Antonio. And oil change, we have an oil change. We have the Take 5 in town here, and they also received that. So that's the number I have on my list. If I missed anybody, I'll probably try to make that up as we go. So now, what I would like to do, you can see everybody here this evening, some of you also in the audience. This is a very special month, and we were approached by a lady who is very passionate about this, and this is a pleasure for us to recognize the military child. And April is the month of the military child. I'm going to read this proclamation in a minute here, but I think, how many of you have had a military experience with children in the military? Yeah, quite a few of us, right? I can remember one, and so because the children are so important, an integral part of this whole process. I can remember when I was, the last assignment I got to come back to Randolph in 1986. We were in Indiana. I was on a joint service assignment at Fort Benjamin Harrison. My daughter was just finishing up her sophomore year of high school. And when I came home one day and said, we're moving back to Texas, she said, Daddy, you have ruined my life. It's over. It's over. Like, how could you possibly do this to me? And this is just what the importance of military families are all about. 2 weeks later, when we moved here, she met her best friend, who's the matron of honor at her wedding. So, but this request came to us from Marcia Caballero, and she is the corporate junior high science department, and she's here with us this evening. And we jumped on this opportunity in a heartbeat. And with her are a couple of people who I think exemplify the military family. We have Miss Maria Dykes. Maria, I'm going to have you guys come up here in a second. Maria Dykes, and she is Air Force retired, 26 years of active duty. Fantastic, congratulations for your service. And her daughter, Zoe, who is a 7th grader at Corbett, and she is in Miss Caballero's class. So let me read this proclamation, and I'm going to come down and present it to you guys. Okay, April 2024 is the month of the military child. April 2, 2024 is Purple Up from Military Kids Day. Whereas the City of Universal City will observe Month of the Military Child during the month of April 2024. And on April 2nd, 2024, Purple Up for Military Kids Day to honor military families and their children for the sacrifices they made and their unconditional support for our armed forces. And whereas more than 1.6 million children under the age of 18 have at least one parent serving in the armed forces, and an estimated 900,000 children have had one or more, both parents deployed multiple times. And whereas the City of Universal City, along with the Texas Education Agency, are committed to ensuring military-connected students are supported in our schools in various programs as our men and women in uniform focus on the challenges and missions they face in the line of duty. And whereas in the month of April, citizens can show their support for military children and appreciation for their strength and sacrifices by wearing purple, which represents the blending of the colors of the 5 branches of the armed forces. Now, therefore, I, John Williams, Mayor of the City of Universal City, call upon the citizens of our city and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the month of April, be the month of the military child. And today, April 2nd, is Purple Up for Military Kids Day, and I signed it today. So I'm going to come down and present this to you, so you guys come on up. You know, it's something when you serve in your country, and like we did in the Air Force, and many of you guys are also obviously related to that, is that we almost take it for granted that, hey, family just goes for family goes. Well, they do, but it's not without some sacrifice. It's not without some sacrifice. And now you are retired, so I talked to your daughter a little bit, she said, now I can stay here for a while. This is pretty cool. So let me go ahead and officially present this to you as it's just a token of our absolute appreciation for the military child. And thank you, and thank you for bringing this up to us. Fantastic. So, but I can remember all those years traveling around. We had, I think, 15 PCSs in 26 years. And that's a challenge for the entire family to make those changes. As little bitty ones, not a big deal, right? And no brainer. But boy, as they get up a little bit, it makes a huge impact and a huge difference in the military family. And so we are proud to thank you and to support the month of the military child and today in Universal City.
Thank you.
This is your chance. Come on. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Please get up here. You hold that. Come here, hon.
Yes.
There you go, girl.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let me get some of our council members. 1, 2, council members. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was her brainchild for us, really, and I thank her for bringing that up to us. And it was not a tough decision.
Yeah, you were on board real quick.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Okay, we move on to our council member comments, and we'll start out with Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the fun things that we get to do as City Council is attend ribbon cuttings. And I've attended a few of those. In December, I was able to be a part of Thrifty Hippie opening. And it was it's a thrift store, but their mission is to really reach out to people in need in the communities. And we met the couple that was opening it. She was just retiring, Nathan and Melissa, I believe their names are. And I was really excited about having them come in and really saw them as a different thrift store. And I followed them on Facebook, and just recently they posted a story about a situation where they had helped a homeless person that's here in UC, and they had been without legal ID for years. And that impacted their ability to do anything, get a job, anything. And they had been helping him with food and with clothing and really reaching out. And they coordinated with RPD, our mental health unit, and Haven for Hope. And he's in the process, at this point he might already have it, but they were getting him legal identification. And he had the promise of a job once he got that legal identification. And that's just one thing that they've done. They're reaching out to so many people. They take donations. I think it's really amazing that we have such a business here in our community that's supporting people in need, and they really are committed to that mission. So down on Wright Street, East Wright 118, and I definitely, Chief, I really want to call out our mental health officers. I've had them, they've come and presented at Citizens Police Academy, and Officer Yee, and then I believe there's two new ones, Corporal Stevens and Officer Hernandez, just have got accommodations. But that unit is really special and has done tremendous outreach in our community with families that just are in need, with community members, and I think that we're really unique in having it. I think the foresight of it being in existence is awesome, and I would love to have them come and present a little bit sometime at a city council meeting, if we could get them on the agenda. I think hearing what they're doing would really make all of us be really proud of our PD. In addition, I'm also totally going to a different direction. We have the Heroes Camp coming up in June. It's designed for 12 to 14-year-olds. It's open. It'll be, we'll have 20 kiddos, I think is what we've decided is our max. It will be presentations with our PD and our fire department and our EMS, and they each are going to have a day. We've kind of revamped it. We did a little bit of learning last year, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be 5 days, this Monday through Friday, and then we'll have a graduation ceremony on Saturday. So if you know any 12 to 14-year-olds, please have them looking for that announcement and the application, and I really think it's going to be great fun. I was really happy to be involved in it. That's all.
Very good. Before, so I don't forget, Mr. Buck, let me put you up now so I don't forget you at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I'm the guy up here on the television that's out of Houston, Texas right now. I just want to say thanks to the city and to Grace Community Church and all of our sponsors for the Easter egg hunt that we were able to do on Saturday. We had a great time. Lots of kids from around the community and apparently surrounding communities also. I think we enjoyed that. It was a wonderful event. I want to thank everybody who participated and helped to put that on. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Gee, I thought you'd be in a luxury suite there in Houston with the Army taking care of you.
Oh, just a Hilton Garden Inn, sir.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Najarian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilman Fitzpatrick was alluding to, we have our Citizens Police Academy going in here, and it just so happens last Thursday was Mental Health Night, and they gave the presentation, and a few people here in the audience got a chance to see that, and there was a lot of information, and it was they talked about the Thrifty Hippie and how they've been working together, and just seeing Sergeant Yee's passion is just amazing. He was just very passionate about the whole program, and something really needs to be heard. So being here at some night at a council meeting, I think the whole community would benefit from something like that. And also, we did go to the Easter egg hunt. That was really good. Again, I don't understand how ready, set actually means go, but to a child, it does. And I enjoy getting ran over every year. It's just, there was lots of people out there, and it was well received, and just everybody had a great time. And one other thing, as the mayor alluded to, that when we have the air show here, there's going to be traffic. And the bad thing about that, what about the good thing? Because that means business. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I just wanted to thank all military families who serve and sacrifice so much, and those who came out tonight. That's super wonderful and amazing. I also want to thank all the tow truck companies who took the time to provide feedback on our tow truck ordinance. I know all of us got several emails, and I think that's absolutely phenomenal because it was a long ordinance with a lot of information, and I appreciate that these businesses took the time and the effort to go through it all and make sure it's right for the city. So I very much appreciate all of their time and everything that they did specifically so we can make this awesome. Also, the library has been just killing it lately. They had their big book sale, and that would look like it was really well attended, and I hope they made a bunch of money for all of their programs. someone did turn in a PEEP diagram, and I got called today that it won a couple awards, so I was slightly excited that you guys all liked my hard work. It was fun and silly, and it was just such a good time. But I appreciate, you know, how hard all the library staff was working, and friends of the library. There was just a lot of people there, and it seemed like they were go, go, go. So as always, awesome library staff, and thank them. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Wong?
Hey, Mayor. I just wanted to give some kudos to the city. I noticed last month that there was a lot of financial information posted on the website. I think it's a great first step, so we're working towards some transparency there. And Mr. Karras is a man after my own heart. I would also love to talk about accessory structures. I know fences didn't quite go the way I wanted it to, but is there any consensus to that? Or potentially discussing it on our new message board? Plug.
I would be for that.
Be real easy to discuss it right here. Absolutely.
We'll be into that discussion in a little bit.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much, everybody. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. It's tab number A. There's 6 items on that agenda, and they'll all be listed, considered as routine by council and enacted by one motion, unless there is someone who would like to pull one of those items off. If not, I'd be glad to entertain a motion for consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Najarian, second by Councilmember Bulman. Discussion? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We move on now to our action items for this evening. First one is tab B, ordinance number 307-B-2024. It's an ordinance amending the requirements for vehicle record/tow services, superseding ordinance 307-8, 1989, and amending chapter 3-3, article 11, vehicle record services in its entirety, providing for severability, setting an effective date, and amending the Universal City Code of Ordinances accordingly. So, Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Huge kudos to Ms. Bulman and Mr. Buck for the feedback that you gave us. It was very helpful. You'll see a lot of your comments have been incorporated, so I put a new copy in front of you this evening. Everything that is in red is what has changed since you had it last time, unless, you know, an A became an A, and we didn't read those. Those were the grammatical things. So we did add in a definition of junk vehicle. We already have that within our particular ordinance. It's the same as the state, with a little bit of definition that a junk vehicle is also, you know, a boat or a motorhome that is inoperable. So we've added that under section 3-3-162 under the definitions. Moving to the second page, you will see, I think Ms. Bulman, you did this. We had painted. We also added in vinyl decals and wraps, which I guess is a form of painting. And then after some consideration, Chief Siemens felt that section in the old one, section 3-3-168 and 169, we didn't change what they said. We just moved them a little further down into the ordinance because we thought they made more sense there. And so you'll see that on an upcoming page. We moved it under section 17. They became 173 and 174, and then we renumbered. And then in terms of use of flashing lights, you know, obviously that needs to be consistent with the state law. So we just noted the state law that was in that particular area. And then on section, the new one, section 3-3-175, TCOL, actually their name is not Officer Standards in Education. They dropped that, so we deleted that section. And then the last big area is going to be under section 3-3-176. We gave a little more information and depth on where the cameras needed to be placed within the storage yard to make sure that the vehicles were safe. And then usually the industry standard for camera footage is about 30 days, but we put to a term not less than 21 calendar days. That way, if there's an investigation the police have, it needs to go back and get plan of work that we need. So those are the changes that we've incorporated for you.
Okay, good, thank you for working on those. Let's go ahead and open up for discussion before I take the motion. Ms. Pullman?
Okay, so I appreciate all these changes and they do reflect some of mine. However, I have a couple of changes that are on the pink sheet that I gave everyone. This isn't coming from me, this is coming from several tow truck companies who are within a very close proximity to Universal City, so these would be potential, people who might work here. So I think their opinion weighs a lot more than mine. So I just basically changed it based on their emails. I'm not a tow truck driver, so I'm gonna explain this the best way I can, but the very first page on this is section 3163. Pretty much all of them, and like I said, they're competing and they're not like they're friends or anything. They all don't necessarily love each other, but they all basically came back with the same feedback. And the big one on this one is the city permit that's required for all tow trucks performing non-consent tows within the boundaries of the city without regard to the location of the place of business or the tow truck owner. Everybody asked if that could be removed, so I guess I'd like to know the justification for keeping it in when it seems like all the tow truck companies are saying that we're leaving money on the table doing that, or even just the way that we're doing it is not very user-friendly for them. So that's one of, I have 4 pages, sorry guys, but that's just one. So that's the first section. And then, do you want me to just keep going through this?
Yeah,
or okay, so then on the second one is 33164. And it was just basically state code doesn't require that they have to have the owner's address, so I just crossed that out. And then same thing with it being painted on the rear. The state doesn't require the vehicles to have that. When they're towing, you can't see the rear anyways. So that was a complaint of everyone. And then also the lettering. So state law says the lettering's 2 inches, not 2.5. So us requiring 2.5 inches when state law doesn't seems a little oppressive and not something that they would love. And then use of flashing lights, you guys changed, which is awesome because they all had an issue with that, but you guys already changed it in here, so that page is null and void. The next one is where it gets a little complicated, and I'm going to try to do this the best way I humanly can. So section 33176 is the vehicle storage facility. I can understand and appreciate that we want the storage facility to be within 10 miles of the city limits. And I understand that for an RFP. What I don't understand it is for putting it in the city ordinance, especially because there are people who are right on the outskirts, like 11, 12, 13, 14 miles, that if they wouldn't be able to do this if this gets put into play saying 10 miles. So I'm saying why not, for the ordinance, we should take that out. And then put it in our RFP. So if we want those companies to bid and we want them to be closer to us, I think that could be an RFP. But I think that for a lot of these vehicle storage facilities, a lot of them have a primary here, but after 30 days, they would need to move them to a secondary location. And instead of putting all that in here and trying to make it super confusing, I'm just saying if we just take that out and then do that in our RFP and keep that separate from our ordinance, that would make a lot more sense and open it up a little bit, because even anyone local might need to be getting a bigger lot, and they might not be able to find something right in that 10 mile, but if they can keep their primary and then move out, but I think that's a lot of wording, I'm so sorry, for the ordinance. So I was just hoping that maybe we could just take that out and then put that in our RFP, that we prefer people to bid that are closer and, to the city. Like I said, these aren't my changes. These are all from tow truck companies, several of them. And like I said, we all got emails from them that were very specific and why they didn't like this. And it's basically just we're being a little bit stricter than state law. And I'm never one for that. So that's all mine.
Okay, so this is the input that you got from various tow companies.
Yeah, all of them, yeah.
I appreciate the tow companies emailing all of you. However, I do want to give you a word of caution because we are going out for an RFP. And if there's any indication that you are showing favor of one or two tow companies.
Can I ask you to speak up a little bit?
Oh, yes, I apologize. I was indicating that I appreciate all of you and your willingness to listen to the tow truck companies, but I want to give a word of caution moving forward that we're going out for an RFP. And we don't want to give any impression that the city council or anyone on city council is showing favoritism toward a particular firm. So while we can accept their comments now, I would really highly recommend moving forward that you not engage in conversation with somebody that could be bidding on the projects or on the contract itself. It's just as a word of caution.
Yeah, can I just say, like, I'm not a tow truck driver, and so I'm not a professional, and I don't think any of us up here are, and so I think the ordinance and the RFP, I believe, are very, very different things, so I think the fact that, like, if we're being stricter than state law, but that makes it harder for the tow truck company, they're the ones who are impacted by this, so I think that's why. It has nothing to do with the RFP, and I made sure that was very clear that these are very separate issues, like the tow truck ordinance, those are completely different. This is just, you know, these are ordinances, like these are basically laws, so I feel like if they're impacting these tow truck companies, that they should have say, because this is their business and their baby, not mine.
Sure, yeah, their appropriate means obviously would be to talk to the police department, because the police department's not going to be making the decision on the tow truck company, the city council is. So that's just my recommendation moving forward, so that you don't have any issues moving forward. The other thing is the ordinance is the basis for the RFP. They're not separate. So when we issue the RFP, they're going to be following the exact rules that we have in here. There's no separation between the RFP. The RFP is going to be saying, we're going out for bids for contract for towing. Here's our ordinance. You're going to have to follow all of the rules and regulations in our ordinance. Oh, and by the way, give us pricing. So there won't be any difference. I want to make sure we understand that. The ordinance is what the tow company contract will be following. Go ahead.
Then I guess that's the question. Why would we make it more strict then, making it so that certain companies couldn't bid then? I guess that's where I have an issue. So if you're going to do an RFP, I would assume that you could say, you know, an RFP preference goes towards the location of where your storage unit is. You put that in RFP, but to put that in an ordinance sounds like you're limiting. It sounds like that sounds like playing favorites. I mean, it sounds like you're limiting who could fill out this RFP potentially, and that's the part that I struggle with. Like, I don't think that that's fair. I think I do think they should be slightly different. Because if you want companies that are closer, put that in your RFP, but to restrict them when it's not state law, like it's not state law saying that they have to be within 10 miles. That's something that the city is asking for. I just have a really hard time with that, because that just does not seem fair to me, to the trucking companies that have these storage facilities and have all these requirements. They're not a gajillion of them, and they're not. I mean, you and I had that conversation. There are not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are not. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe that are going to be able to put in this bid, and so making that even more restrictive just doesn't seem like a good idea.
So,
doesn't seem fair.
And you're right, we did talk about this, so let me just talk about the rest of what we talked about and why we set a mileage or distance on it. Is because when you get your car towed, you're going to have to go to the tow place, and if it's 27 miles away and you get there and you need something else, then you're coming 27 miles and then going back 27 miles and maybe all the way on the other side of San Antonio. And so if the city is going to tow a vehicle, for whatever reason, we want to make sure that it is very easy for that person to get their vehicle back. Having it closer is easier. In addition, when a vehicle is towed or if an investigation is done, our police officers have to go too. And so if they're going 27 miles away on the other side of San Antonio and it takes an hour to get there versus if they're going 10 miles away and it takes 15 minutes to get there, now we have an issue of how long are our officers going to be off the street. So we recognize that we need to set some kind of a parameter. Is it 10 miles? Is it 15 miles? I don't know what that is, but we felt that 10 was reasonable.
Okay, let me see if anybody else wants to weigh in on this.
And you can weigh in
Yeah,
anytime.
I
I'm sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice.
So you're saying that we can't do an RFP with any kind of requirements in it unless it's in an ordinance? Is that what you're saying?
So when you do an RFP for a towing service, you're saying these are our rules and regulations that we're looking for the tow company. So this is the precursor to the RFP. When they're submitting their RFP, they're going to be stating that they can comply with the rules and regulations that we have in place.
Which could be in the RFP, right? I mean, you could say these are the rules we want you to bid on, is you've got to be within this distance or whatever. But I guess my question is what if, do we know, one, how many impound lots there are within a 10-mile radius? I imagine it's a pretty low number.
2 or 3, 4, I'm not sure. There could be contract lots, I really don't know. Again, it could be 10 or 15 miles. We weren't stuck on 10. We were simply being prudent to the folks that are already seemingly inconvenienced by the impound, right? Trying to keep it where if their car was towed or wrongfully parked or what have you, that they're not driving to Bannis Towing in Leon Valley to go get their car that we towed from here. So it was just with the individuals being impacted by the tows, due prudence for them. So no, 10, 15, whatever. But at some point we have to have a threshold because it costs the city money for us to send our officers out there and do impounds, to research a vehicle with a warrant, or to meet up a complainant on site that wants to report the damage to the vehicle that the city's ultimately, we're not on the hook for because our ordinance covers that. But they will think we are partially responsible, right? So we will have to drive back out there and meet a complainant. And there's just a lot of things that would take us further from the city, and we already have limited resources. So it's not uncommon. Every ordinance that we review in kind of retooling ours kept theirs not every, but a majority of them kept it relatively close to the city for inconvenience, lack of inconvenience to the individual impacted, as well as the convenience for the agency. So if that helps, Councilman.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I'm just concerned that we may not get bids, and then they're going to be bringing us back another ordinance to soften it. Like if they say we don't want to keep 21 days of video footage or whatever else is in here that they are not able to comply with, or if we redo aviation and so then we lose one of our only impound lots in town, then what are we going to do? So I feel like this is something that would be negotiated in the contract where you'd say, yes, we want this to be 10 miles, and they say, well, it's going to be 12. And then we say, okay, well, that's the best we can get, so that's what we have to live with.
Sure.
So I just would be more in favor of saying follow state law and the ordinance, and then let's try to negotiate all that in the contract from the RFP.
And then the other side, I mean, just looking at it from the other side, Bannis or Richards, and I'm not sure who's furthest, but somebody that's extremely far away is doing all their work to submit an RFP for really no chance of getting selected because we can't afford to drive that far and send the folks that are impacted that far. So we were trying to find happy ground. 10 might not be it, to your point.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Buck, you want to weigh in? Can't hear you, Stephen.
Sorry about that.
Now we can hear you.
So I'm looking at this from the perspective not only of the company with which we might engage in business as part of the RFP with the cities that are contract with, but also the other private company towing services that are contracted with an apartment complex or a business park who are going to be licensed to provide towing services, but aren't necessarily affiliated with the city. I do think that the city has an interest in protecting the residents from making sure that the company that's operating out of Seguin, let's say, doesn't come into Universal City and take one of our residents' vehicles all the way out to Seguin. And to Turner's point, it involves a lot of driving and mileage and inconvenience to the residents, even when it might not involve the police. So there's one aspect when there's a wreck and the company that is involved that is contracted with the city to provide towing services, but also those companies that are privately contracted and are legally towing residential or resident vehicles out to some other place. I think we should make sure that their interests are represented as well. And just to clarify, Ms. Turner, Chief Siemens, this ordinance would apply to private towing companies, to all towing companies that are towing vehicles in Universal City, correct?
Yes, the first portion of it would apply to any towing, but there's the part on there, the last 4 items that CM Turner mentioned earlier that apply just to the contract service. We tried to blend it into Councilman Bulman's points that she had made. So yeah, it applies to, generally speaking, tow record services in our city. How they operate, permit lists or with permit, the lights they use, the speed limits they have to follow. However, I don't know that we can legislate what a private company such as Colony, who they contract with for tows. But what we can do is ensure that the towing company that is in contract with the city is not inconveniencing people by making them go further or hitting their wallet again by having them spend more gas to get to the other side of San Antonio or Seguin as the example that you gave. But I don't know that we can legislate private businesses from contracting with who they want to tow with. That's something I'm not familiar with.
We cannot.
Yes.
It's a private contractual agreement, so if an apartment complex has a towing company with
Bannis or whoever, and I use that just to their
27
farm.
miles away, then if the apartment complex calls them, that's where their car is going. For the city, when we call the tow truck,
We can keep it.
we want to keep it so that the vehicle is close by, so it is
Closer.
not an inconvenience for the person whose vehicle we have towed.
So then, under your example, if an apartment complex in Universal City were to contract with a towing company in Corpus Christi, that company could theoretically come up to Universal City, legally tow a vehicle under Texas state law, take that vehicle all the way back to Corpus Christi, and when the resident, because how the heck am I going to get my car that's 3 hours away from here, determines that the vehicle now is unclaimed property and becomes the property of the towing service, you see the hole that I'm trying to avoid for our residents here potentially, that we're going to legalize the appropriation of people's private property by a towing company towing a $10,000 vehicle, taking it all the way down to Corpus Christi and saying, oh, this is unclaimed property and we're going to sell it.
I get the concept, Councilman Buck, but I'm certain that we can't legislate who a private owner engages in a contract with for towing off private property. I'm positive of that. Colony owners own the colony. If they want to call a record company in Corpus and do that, it is unfortunate. I agree with you. It's not a good business practice, but I don't think the city has a legal, Megan, and you might be able to speak to that. I'm sorry, Council. You might be able to, I don't think we have an authority or a legal right, a legal leg to stand on in legislating what a private entity can, who they can contract with. That said, we can control who the city is represented by in how they do business and where they go and what they dress like and that type of stuff. So that's all we're trying to do here. We've scrutinized numerous other ordinances, and ours is substantially less restrictive than the New Braunfels and several others in the area. So we think we found a good balance of being fair. Now the mileage thing, of course, is whatever council determines appropriate. With those other points in mind, though.
I'm sorry, that's also the importance of that permit.
Yes, ma'am,
We should
exactly.
have that knowledge of who's
Of who is
operating
operating.
in our city limits.
I'm sorry, hold on, you guys are talking over each other, I apologize, I'm not trying to be contrary here. Ms. Candy and Chief Stevens, you guys are talking over each other, and I'm not able to make out everybody's individual word.
I'm just hoarse.
I was going to bring it closer. Sorry, we have a lot of sore throats here, so no one is talking very loud.
Councilmember Buck, I was just saying, and that's why it's also important to have that permit requirement, is so that we know who is operating within the city limits, so we can get that information and have that information available to know who's towing off of where, not just what's going on city-wise.
Yes, ma'am. Could we put it into our permitting requirements that in order for a company to be permitted for towing services in Universal City, that they must have an impound lot where a resident or a vehicle that is towed from Universal City would be towed to a location within a specific radius. So we have the legal authority. And I say this is the difference between this and a permit for a company providing sprinkler installation services, where there's no imposition on the resident to have to travel to that company that's in Corpus Christi. But if a company takes a vehicle from within Universal City limits all the way back down to Corpus Christi and says, okay, come get your vehicle, is there any way that we as a city can prevent that?
Councilmember Buck, I've not seen any language like that. I'm happy to look at that, but I would not support putting in that type of restriction without a legitimate governmental interest. I mean, hypothetically, you're right, it's not going to be cost effective for the tow company or the private property to utilize someone who's 2.5 hours away. But to say that it's prohibited or that you have to have a restriction on locale for private towing as well, I would have to look at it. I do not believe that that would be something we should include.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it. I hope everybody understands that I'm trying to look out for the interests of the residents here from that perspective to make sure that somebody, that we do not authorize essentially the legal theft and appropriation of people's vehicles because they're X number of miles away from here. Because then by your example, somebody can find an illegally parked Ferrari and tow it all the way to Mississippi or something like that and say, okay, come get your vehicle. And I know that sounds a little bit like going way down the rabbit hole, but if we could maybe put the vote off on this until 2 weeks from now, one, that would give a period of time for us to engage with the local towing companies. I say us, not the individual council members, but rather the city, to get input from those towing companies to determine how would this impact them, and also to determine whether or not there is a precedent for us to be able to establish a requirement that any company towing vehicles in Universal City would be required to have that vehicle stored within a specific distance away from the city limits.
Bear County. It might be not a distance, it might be maybe something more general, like within Bear County or within the surrounding counties, and then name the surrounding counties.
Yeah, I agree. Something like that we could prevent somebody's vehicle from being legitimately towed from private property and then being towed halfway across the country, and then when it's not claimed, that it's put up as unclaimed property, like your driving, right?
Yeah, and that incident might just be a one-off. I don't ever know of any tow company from a different locale or state ever coming in to pull up a vehicle.
We're talking about non-existent. I mean, there's no precedent for that I know of. Dylan might be able to speak to precedents. I have never heard of a record company from another state or even 3 counties away contracting with. It's not conducive to good business practices for the towing company or the private entity that's engaging with them. So we're talking about. I subscribe to your train of thought, Councilman Buck, because that was the logic we used in setting the distance with the contract tow company, because we didn't want that perception that we were adding insult to injury, if you will. But I've never heard of a precedent for that taking place. So I think we're trying to legislate against something that we really don't have to worry about that's moved. And maybe Dylan, I don't know if he has a speaking part or is allowed to, but in his experience, he might be able to speak to that, having seen that. I've never seen it in 3 different
Just a
cities.
yes or no would be sufficient.
The problem with Universal City is we're in 2 counties now. Great idea then. The problem with Universal City is we're in 2 counties now.
Right, we're talking about states away and
yes,
several counties.
But City of San Antonio, because they're all in Bear County, all their vehicles have to stay within Bear County. If they're towed from an apartment complex, they have to stay in Bear County. So what Ms. Turner said about the couple counties that are local would make the most sense.
Yes, agreed.
So I'm sorry, so do I understand from that prior statement that we could state that any vehicle towed from the Universal City limits must remain within a certain geographical boundary?
We're going to verify that.
I think it's just a business practice. I don't know that it's legislated anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we can legislate that.
Then in that case, Mr. Mayor, I would propose, help me out with the language here, postponing the first vote on this ordinance until 2 weeks from now, in order to give Ms. Santee and the rest of the city staff a little bit of time to look into this.
And Mr. Mayor, if you're going to do that, could we actually get feedback from all of the council members before we do that, so we don't bring it back?
Hold on to your motion, but let's get any of the council members on. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
In looking through Ashton's feedback, I don't know that our sizing of the letters, is there a reason why we were more restrictive than the state? I mean,
I don't. It might have used to read that 30 years ago when we drafted the original ordinance.
Okay.
So no, there's no reason for that.
So I think that would be
It was in
easy one.
existence.
Yeah.
We inherited it.
That would be an easy one to
Easy
look at. The distance, towing is an awful experience to whoever is having their car
That's
towed.
right.
And so I appreciate the willingness to try to figure out how do we minimize the impact to the person. And so while 10 miles is very specific, I don't know, I appreciate what we're trying to do there, I don't care if that changes to a little bit with it, the close, I don't know, within 20, 15 miles, but whatever that looks like. And I'm not sure if there was anything other really specific. The color of the lights.
That was fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one that was fixed.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's all I have.
Mr. Adjournment, do you have anything to add that's not been covered already?
Well, I have to add, but it's all been covered. I agree with Ms. Bulman's point too, that, that between the 2 and 2.5 inches is just something kind of ridiculous. If we're looking at 2 inches of state requirement, there's really no reason that even has to be in there, as far as I'm concerned. As far as Councilman Buck, yeah, I see a slippery slope trying to go and trying to regulate private businesses. It was just stupid business practice to be able to, if they were able to do it, to get a towing company to take it from here. Who's going to want to come from Corpus Christi? And I know that was just a point you were making to make the larger point. So I agree with that, but getting into private business is a slippery slope, which I don't feel that we should ever go down unless we have to. And we were talking about the distance of 10 miles. Did somebody come up with there's off the top of your head, it was like 3 or 4.
Not positive, but
I would be interested to find out if we moved it to 12, maybe 15, just trying to keep it in an area, how much that would open up to more businesses being able to put in bids. And I think that's always good. I think if we go any farther than that, I've got my vehicle stolen and had to go to Timbuk 3 to pick it up, and that was no bueno. But there has to be a happy medium there.
We'll map it out.
I would
When
appreciate
we bring it
that.
back, we'll have a map. Well, but what we will do is we'll make sure we leave everybody's names off.
That's great.
Because
Okay.
sometimes we don't want to give the impression
All right.
that we're trying to scoop one business in or out of whatever that radius happens.
That's going to be everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion by Mr. Buck then to postpone this,
Second.
and there is a second now by Councilmember Vaughan. Any last minute discussion? I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Can I ask one question, just because this was also brought up, and this was tonight, so I was asked. I know you briefly touched on it, but can you give me the why 21 days? If like standard, police chief, for the one that you added tonight, the police department should review for a term not less than 21 calendar days. Is 16 too short? That's, I guess, to some people, industry standard would be 16 days if they're high volume or whatnot. But my question is there a reason we have 21 days?
It's usually 30. We just, I think it was 21 before, and we thought 21 is fine still. But the logic behind the timing is that, let's say a vehicle is towed and it stays in there for 7 days. Someone gets it out. And it's the registered owner who gets it out, but what the registered owner who was driving the car, and they had some property in it, they want to file a complaint, a criminal case that there was some stuff stolen, but they weren't the ones that got the car out. So they don't know that their stuff was missing for another 5 days after that. So you're now in this hypothetical, you're at 12 days, which we could deal with different hypotheticals all day. But the reality of it is, we might not field a complaint within that 21-day window, or within a 12-day window rather. But we likely would within a 21-day window, and that would allow us time to get video footage and actually have a chance at returning some property and satisfying a victim, not victimizing them again because video wasn't available. So 21 days on your average video system, most of them run to 30. Most of our businesses in this area have a 30-day loop, both filling stations and the like. So 21 days seems reasonable for us to get notified and then work a case.
I have one more question, if that's okay, sorry. The other question I had,
This
yeah,
motion is to postpone this for some more.
okay, yeah, and I was just gonna ask, would it be legal if we did like their primary storage facility needs to be within 10 miles? Or their impound, their primary storage facility. What if we said their primary, because would you be against the fact that after 30 days, if a car was left in their thing, Like, how does that work for the police, I guess? Because after 30 days, let's say someone leaves their car in there for 30 days and you see, and they're like, hey, we want to move this to a secondary lot that's a little bit further out, not 27 miles, but maybe just a little bit further out. Are you going to have an issue with that as a police department? Like,
No, but having researched towing yards for our own purposes, when I was with Castle Hills on having our own city tow yard, like Leon Valley did and some others, there's statutory requirements for notification, right? And I won't get into all that or put Dylan on the spot again or any other record company owner now, but there's like a 10-day letter that's got to go out. Then there's another notice, and then it can go the final notice or a certified mail that says this is going to auction. Rarely do cars get relocated and go; they just get shipped to an auction point at some point from the primary yard. But I'm not opposed to what you're proposing. After 30 days, they can leave a primary yard. I would have to think about some of that, but I'll make a note of that as one of the three and give us some time to
that's what I was hoping
contemplate.
to spit it out now so that you can look into it for the next for the next meeting. But that was just the other thing I had was, tell me how you feel about that, and that way we can figure that out next time.
Okay, then so for clarification, we've got the lettering, which is simple fix, the non-contract distance, what the city can regulate, what it can't, for the non-contract tows. In other words, the private tows. And then up to 15 miles, they bring back a map of some sort that would illustrate what we might be capturing in that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily who, but how many.
But yeah.
And then the 21 days, which, are we okay with that now? Or
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Everyone just wanted an explanation.
That's
I'm
why.
just doing due diligence.
And then the primary, and then to the alternate after a certain number of days. Okay.
I'm okay with all that. Thank you. I appreciate your time and all this.
Of course.
I know it's a lot.
Okay, very good. We have the motion and we have a second. Do you understand the motion now to postpone it?
Yes.
Okay, the motion and the second is made, so let's call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Move on to tab C. Approve of pay application number 1 invoice for the Ivy Lane Street Improvements Construction.
Move for approval.
Motion made by Councilmember Vaughan.
Second.
Approved. Second by Councilmember Najarian. Any discussion further? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Move on now to tab number D. Resolution 902, 2024. It's a resolution of the City Council of Universal City, Texas, to appoint either Dr. Chichi Yunda Wu of the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District or Dr. Lillian Ringsdorf of Region 8 Department of State Health Services as the official health authority for the City of Universal City and setting an effective date. And I will give kudos to the city staff for looking at potential alternatives and options that were made available. And Ms. Turner and I have looked at these options, and so we bring it up to you. You've had a chance to review the two candidates. So that's what's before us tonight to make that decision. And we must make the decision by May because by law we must make that decision. So I'll open it up for discussion, or I'll be glad to take a motion if someone would like to make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I do also congratulate the city staff for looking through and coming up with a fantastic alternative. And at this time, I would like to make a motion that we get the services, we take on the services of Dr. Lillian Ringsdorf for the 2-year term.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, anybody? All right, let's call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
Sorry, hold on, actually, I missed the part about questions, and was there a discussion about this?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you, Ms. Buck.
No, I just went into a
He
motion.
said,
No, it was just put into a
in a
motion.
second, did you call for discussion?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I took the motion instead, so I need to open this up for discussion.
Thank you.
Mr. Buck, did you have a comment?
Oh, yes, sir, thank you. I received quite a few emails from residents of Universal City, and I'm sure that everybody else did. Unfortunately, I was not at the meeting back in February when Ms. Chichi Wu was brought up. I know that a lot of people spoke out about Ms. Wu's prior affiliations with Planned Parenthood and her advocacy for legal abortions, et cetera, et cetera. Has that in any way impacted our decision to investigate a second opportunity. Could somebody fill me in a little bit on why we're looking for an alternative to Ms. Wu, who has been our city health official for many, many years?
That was the consensus of council after considerable discussion to look at a potential, if there are any alternatives that may be available besides the city health district. And so that was a consensus that council had made to send staff back to examine any potential options.
Okay, so now the motion is to appoint or take under contract Dr. Winsor as our city health official as opposed to Dr. Wu.
Correct.
That's correct. We already have to mention Dr. Woodall. This would be appointing her as our representative.
Very well, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? I'm sorry, I forgot to, we kind of switched around there. So now we'll call for that vote.
Okay, I'm going to start it over.
Yeah.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Buff?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Wait, oh, sorry, you forgot Fitzpatrick.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Do we
Sorry
have,
about that.
do we have all five now? Okay, very good.
Yes.
All right, that passes. Move on to E, tab E. City Council Message Board Service Agreement and contract with XenForo.
Yeah, say that 3 times.
XenForo.
Mayor and council for the sufficient amount of time that we needed to contact quite a few companies to find out what kind of messaging boards they had. Obviously, we needed to make sure that you were protected, that they could comply with the Open Meetings Act, and as you can see, not many of them did. I also want to give thanks to Maribel, who was constantly hounding all of these organizations to gather the data that she did, and she did an awesome job on that. In contacting some of the cities, they did provide words of caution and encouragement to the city council, and so we felt it was appropriate to include those as well. What you have before you tonight is XenForo. They are compliant with the Open Meeting Act. One of the things that council will need to determine if they move forward with this is, are you going to want any policies or rules of engagement for use of it, or are you going to leave it open and just see how it falls?
Okay, let me open that for discussion. Mr. Vaughan.
There was some concern brought up by the staff about Open Meetings Act, so I reached out to TML and they confirmed that anything that we would like to post on there is not Open Meetings Act violation, as long as the message board is posted appropriately, which is one click away from the main page, and that we're not taking official action or official votes. So we can discuss anything that we'd like to discuss on there. And so it's $650 for the annual subscription, and I think part of our previous discussion was, why don't we try it for a year, and if nobody uses it or it doesn't work very well, we toss it on the renewal. But I think it's a very inexpensive way to allow us to do more communication without having to do it at this meeting and hash out these issues. So I would be in favor of it, and I would move to direct staff to sign up for a 1-year starter subscription with XenForo.
That motion. Oh, I guess Buck second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Open discussion. Yes, Ms. Ball.
I just want to point out, like, I do think, like, just giving it a year, if you don't want to use it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, just, now we're talking about possibly like the greenhouse. This tow truck stuff would have been a really good one. I got some emails that you guys didn't get. So it's like, how do I give those to you? Like, so if you're passionate about this tow truck ordinance and I've got emails from, tow truck companies, then I can sit here and read them to you at this meeting, but I just feel like that's a lot of work. Like, you're not going to sit here and read. I just got one right now as well. Like, it's so hard because and they're long, they're not short. So it's like, I want to share these with you guys, but I can't share them with you. So this message board it's just another example of, like, I could have given this all to you yesterday. If you didn't want to look at it, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, it would just give you the opportunity to be like, hey, I got this email, did you guys get this email? And if you care, you just be like, yeah, I didn't get this, or that way you kind of know. And like I said, I know that it seems like a lot of work, but I'm thinking, like, if you just did it really quickly before the city council meeting, you were like, oh, I actually just posted, a couple emails, and that's important, so I'm just gonna look at them real quick. I think that might be, another, I just think there's a lot of reasons that you could do it. I understand not wanting the extra work, and I understand, but if there's someone who does, and someone who cares that much, I just figure like, why block them out? It just seems kind of silly. That's it, sorry.
Mr. Najarian?
Yeah, and
Mr.
It's
Buck
not-
has his hand up too, Mayor, I just want to point that out.
Excuse me?
Mr. Buck has his hand up
Oh,
as well.
I'll get you in a minute, Stephen.
Yeah, it's not that I want to put under the extra work. I just want to, I would like to make sure that the work being put into there is going to be something productive. And I know that you would talk with TML. Again, it's like if we can't, it does go down a slippery slope, which kind of scares me getting, and I'll say it, the walking forum, where if we're not allowed to talk about agenda items with people, with the council face to face before a council meeting, because that's not part of the Open Meetings Act, and I don't understand the difference between being in person or being electronic. I just, and the city is not going to be regulating this page. It would be up to us. So there would have to be some big regulations, and I would like it to be something productive. It doesn't intrigue me though. So I do have to say it doesn't intrigue me to see what it might bring, and I do have to look at the fact that, as we brought up, hey, let's use it for a year if it's not being productive. I can see that. I mean, I just don't want to block something because of the fact that my feelings on it. Who knows, I might love it. I'm not feeling that way right now, but
You never know.
never know. So that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo some of the comments that were made by Councilmember Bulman about a lot of this coding information could have been shared ahead of time. I really wish, fellow council members, that I could have shared with you the thoughts that I sent to our distinguished city manager and our distinguished chief of police with some of my recommendations, so that we could have had a lot of this discussion ahead of time. So that's, I think the message board could potentially save a lot of time and a lot of discussion during our city council meeting. A question for our distinguished city attorney. Could you explain whether or not the walking forum provisions apply or do not apply in our electronic communications on this message board, and whether, as long as this message board is publicly available to everybody, whether we are avoiding the dangers of a walking forum?
So I'm going to give you a qualified answer to that. So long as the conversations are in compliance with what is allowed under the state law provision related to city business within the purview of the governmental body, and you're not getting off topic, the statute does identify that it is not considered to be a walking quorum, because this is a public record. So it is acting in a similar fashion as your public meeting. It is recording. You have to maintain that record. And so it's a recordation of your discussions or of your documents or information. However, it is not a substitute for discussion in an open meeting. So you can't, I guess I would caution against saying, well, I said it on the message board, I don't have to repeat it here. If someone has a question or wants to have a conversation in the public meeting, they certainly can do so, but the message board can allow, like you're saying, that notice if there's opportunity to have discussion or thoughts or information put out there prior to the public meeting.
So we could potentially have an ordinance that is proposed in the agenda, and we could all post our markup ideas on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoons or something like that, and then our other council members could comment on their feelings about my markup of the ordinance and say, well, I think we should do it like this, and we can come to the city council meeting on Tuesday and shorten the meeting significantly, correct?
Well, Well, but I'm not gonna agree with that because how is city staff gonna have that document and how are we gonna have it on the dais? We've gotta have all that information on the dais for everybody to review, to be able to provide comment and feedback, because what if you didn't come to consensus on the message board?
Okay, point well taken, but we as a council could start to form our consensus so that we can give city a unified direction to go back to, and to go back to the drawing board or something like that, and then bring something at a later date.
I think it's gonna be an adventure. And we'll just take the challenges as they come.
And I think you need to be careful about saying that we've come to a consensus, because a consensus could very easily be construed as a vote. So perhaps you need, and this is what Austin told us, and I take their word on it because they can be very contentious. As a council member, you need to be very careful about how you parse your wording on there so that it in no form or fashion can be misconstrued. And we all know that's very difficult, not only with your fellow council members, but with the general public as well. So my first warning is let's not use the word consensus when we're talking about the message board.
Yes, and we're at a meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I would just, I'm not totally against it, but I would urge really careful caution on all of you. Because something that could come out that you say that could be misconstrued, it could potentially be problematic. And I just think, I don't want to open up a bucket of worms that could get you guys in trouble. I truly don't want to do that. I don't disagree with giving it a try and seeing how many of you would actually use it. We don't know that answer either. So I'd be in favor for at least giving it a try, but I urge you to be very cautious, be very careful. Well,
just real quickly, and I didn't bring that up, but that's one of my big concerns, which you brought up, Mr. Turner, is putting things out there. We can put things out there, but if the information gets put out there and just by the wording of it, it looks like you're leaning and showing which way you're going to vote on somewhere, that could be disaster. And I don't ever want to be put in that spot. So like she said, if we do this, it's going to be an adventure because you're going to have to watch the wording and everything else. So if we do this, I just really hope we don't ever get ourselves in that situation.
Obviously involvement totally voluntary by council anyway. I mean, you do not have to participate in it. You don't have to furnish information. It's totally, completely up to you. And I understand some of the explanations of, well, this gives us a chance, and we'd have talked about this beforehand. Our meeting wouldn't have gone on and on and on. I understand that too. So I just urge caution. You got to be very careful. Christina?
I was not for this originally, and I'm still not for it. I feel like it's giving another opportunity for our feelings to be misconstrued, to be quoted out of context. I am concerned about the commitment of time for the information that's posted out there and really digesting it and having time. I appreciate the live discussion because I feel like you get nuances from talking to people and really looking at them and understanding. I'm not sure that posting people's emails on the message board is probably good practice because the person
Well, I would ask.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we can't routinely assume that we can do that because people have a right to, if they want their information out there or not, their opinion and what they stated. So I like the live aspect of it. I like getting the information ahead of time, being able to read it and do my own research, and then coming back here and having a robust discussion on the dais. I think that there's real value in that. I know there was a history of meetings going very long previously, and I think we've really done a lot of work to fix that, and it's better, but I really appreciate the live discussion. So that's all.
Everybody's had a chance to weigh in, I think. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, it's for 1 year starter.
Okay, that's your motion, Phil?
Yes.
1 year starter? Okay. And second? Ms. Bulman? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a 1 year starter on this. Any other discussion? I think we've talked about it long enough, so let me call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Nay.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes then. That concludes our action this evening. So we're going to a no tab. We're going to an executive session now. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-072, regarding the purchase and value of real estate, real property, deliberation, and open session with detrimental effect on the position of the corporation in negotiations with a third party and for attorney consultation. And it's related to the property owned by University City, 33.3 acres, and the Economic Development Corporation, 9.94 acres, located at Loop 1604 and Bird Boulevard. So we will now, it is now what? 8:25, we'll now go into executive session. We'll be back as fast as we can. Thank you. Bathroom break on the way. Go ahead.
And Mayor, maybe for the record, we need to note that Mr. Buck is also going in via Zoom into the executive session.
Okay, so Mr. Buck will be joining us in executive session.
It's going to take a couple of years, and the money is well taken care of.
I know. Oh my goodness.
Lock the doors. It's true.
Recording in progress.
Hello? Okay, there he is. All right, you back with us, Stephen?
I am for, yeah.
All right, okay. All right, executive session has been concluded, and there'll be no action taken in regard to the items that were discussed during that session. So that concludes our executive session discussion, and it is now 9:14, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. Appreciate it very much.